Jay and Silent Bob Reboot is, and I know this is a strange way to begin a film review, a difficult film to review. It is, however, perhaps the perfect film to talk about here, since it plays fast and loose with the namesake of this very channel, The Fourth Wall. It is as much a film with a Jay and Silent Bob style story, thin as it may be, as it is a film about Kevin Smith the man and his friends getting together to make a movie and inviting his wider world of friends via the internet and his podcasts along for the ride. With marijuana, just so much marijuana. So my name is Danny, my friend needs no introduction, and you're here at The Fourth Wall as we review Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, Snoogins. First, just to be transparent, I am a longtime fan of the work of Kevin Smith. His filmography has had many ups and downs, to be sure, but I'm usually willing to give him a shot when he puts something out. In fact, I saw this film during a tour where Smith himself came out after the screening for a Q&A. It was awesome. As a side note, regardless of the film's quality, I challenge any other filmmaker to just walk out on stage and off the cuff be equally as entertaining as the film you just watched. Take that, Martin Scorsese. Anyway, the film. Our story opens with our titular stoner heroes where they have been for the past 25 years. Can you believe the Clerks came out in '94? God, I'm old. As they are selling weed next to the Quick Stop, they are quickly arrested and removed from the premises. It is literally during their trial that they learn of a new film being made about a pair of characters that were based on their likenesses. It is a stoner superhero film titled Bluntman v. Chronic, a direct skewering towards the grittier DC films of the past few years. Strap in, folks, you don't care for this kind of humor? Well, that's how it goes. It becomes Jay and Bob's mission to immediately go to Hollywood to stop the film from being finished so that they can regain the rights to their own names, which they unknowingly signed away. Yep, that's the story. Along the way, our duo acquires a youthful, specifically diverse group of women who tag along for the adventure. Now, one of these young women, who is played by the director's actual daughter, Harley Quinn Smith, is the daughter of Jay and Silent Bob fame in the film. This kind of self-referential humor and casting is peppered throughout the film's 90-minute runtime. The story continues, as you'd expect, with no real twists or turns, but plenty of laughs. I don't think it's a real spoiler to say that it concludes with our heroes returning to where they started, but maybe having grown some in the process. Oh, and along the way, there are so many cameos from Kevin Smith's past films and other major film stars of the moment that the only real spoiler here would be to mention who they all are. So I won't. The plot, if you are familiar with Kevin Smith's previous work, Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back, should sound incredibly familiar. It is indeed a reboot of an old story, and I just got that. It's just the title. Now, when I say that the movie is hard to review, what I mean is that the plot is hardly the point here. In fact, on a technical level, I would say that this entire film rarely rises above mediocre. The plot is thin, the acting is fine enough, the cinematography is standard, not particularly dynamic, but that being said, this is a film that rises above the sum of its parts. The jokes are rapid fire. It has heart for days. Not all the jokes land, to be sure, but there are more hits than misses, in my estimation. This is one of those cases when I talk about a film, and I have to admit that it's not exactly a good film, right? Nevertheless, it may just be a great film for the right audience. This is a return to form for a filmmaker who took a weird turn in his past couple of films. Don't even get me started on yoga hosers. Now, this is clearly an intensely personal film for the writer-director Kevin Smith. Past the thin story about getting to Hollywood and through a thick haze of pot smoke is the real story about a filmmaker who nearly died from a heart attack. Kevin Smith, the man, gained a bit of notoriety as a stoner filmmaker who at one time was, and I quote, too fat to fly. Due to a 100% blockage in a major artery, the Widowmaker, he called it himself, he had a massive heart attack. Now, luckily, due to a skilled surgeon, he survived and devoted himself to a healthier lifestyle, dropping a huge amount of weight by becoming a vegan. This event clearly affected Smith, who has injected his new lease on life into every bit of this film. Now, he clearly still has the same sense of humor that he always did, a mix of dry, film referencing, self-deprecating, often incredibly raunchy jokes, mixed with the cream-filled sentiment of a man who lives with his heart firmly on his sleeve. The film features Jay and Silent Bob confronting the fact that they are getting older. Things are changing. And that can be jarring to film characters who are often expected to remain the same and always as you remember them. Along with this very personal story from Smith is also a commentary on how the world itself is changing in regards to pop culture, film, and, strangely enough, the culture of cannabis. Smith was the guy who featured Stan Lee in guest appearances long before there was ever a Marvel Studios. He was also the guy who got Mark Hamill to cameo in his film when the current Star Wars films weren't even a twinkle in Disney's eye. We've also seen marijuana become much more mainstream as it has become more and more acceptable and, depending on what state you're in, legal. A particular highlight is when our heroes, who are very seasoned weed smokers, try edibles for the first time and are taken for a bit of a ride. And finally, of course, is the not even thinly veiled commentary on the film industry itself and its own incestuous relationship with sequels, prequels, sidequels, in-between-quills, remakes, reboots, revivals, and reimaginings. As the movie itself states, in 10 years, we'll be rebooting the reboots because there just isn't anything original coming out now for us to be nostalgic about later. For such a thin plot about stoners going to Hollywood, like ogres and onions, there's a lot of layers here. Now comes the hard part. Would I recommend this movie? Well, yes and no. Now, this is essentially the Avengers Endgame of Kevin Smith's filmography. If you walk into this movie with zero exposure to what has come before, you might be lost and wondering why some of this is even supposed to be funny. Almost everything, including plot points and characters, are callbacks or references to Smith's past films or just his life in general. If you grew up watching these films, or a fan of all things 90s, listen to any of Kevin Smith's many podcasts, or just really like stoner comedies, this movie might just be for you, as it definitely was for me. Now, if you don't do any of those things, maybe give it a pass. I think that's fair. As for me personally, as I said, on a technical level, it is nothing to write home about. However, in terms of pure entertainment, I would give Jay and Silent Bob 8 squares of chocolate, which couldn't possibly do any harm if you ate them all at once, out of 10. If you enjoyed this review, why not give us a like and or subscribe to keep up to date with upcoming reviews and commentary coming at you from the fourth wall. Once again, my name is Danny, this is The Fourth Wall, and I'll see you at the movies, son. Snooch to the nooch! What?